Morgan Freeman at last divulges the 6 actors that he enjoyed most. In a town founded on deception, Morgan Freeman has never been less than genuine. His voice, etched out of patience and wisdom, has spoken more than motion pictures. It has spoken mankind itself. But even in a profession brimming with egos and talent, Freeman's respect is not easily offered. He has walked alongside legends, portrayed gods and convicts, presidents and poets. But behind that serene authority beats the silent heart of a man who recalls greatness not in renown, but in reality. Hollywood oddly rewards noise. The most boisterous names receive the brightest lights. But Freeman's respect is for those who walk with grace in their profession, those who bring to mind why he ever stood before a camera, who inspired the man who inspired us all. Whom did he see not as competitors, but as reflections of the art itself? Tonight, we follow those answers along the stories, scenes, and silences of 6 actors Morgan Freeman cherished most, and why their artistry continues to resonate through his own. Clint Eastwood, the taciturn partner in moral seriousness. Freeman once said Clint Eastwood never had to play tough. He just was. Their friendship started on the Unforgiven set, a Western without flash, where violence carried weight and silence was eloquence. Eastwood directed with a sort of quiet that Freeman respected, a leadership without bluster. That partnership was the start of an unusual creative bond among 2 legends who had a sense of restraint as power. When Unforgiven came in the early 1990s, the 2 men were well past seeking confirmation. Eastwood, the invincible cowboy no more, was dismantling the legend of heroism. Freeman, ever the conscience of men's tales, discovered a role that lent his quiet authority its fullest import. The movie wasn't about revenge, it was about ethics. On that set, Freeman experienced something he wasn't often to find in Hollywood: silence as power. He never really got loud, but the entire crew listened up whenever he uttered a word. Freeman referred to Eastwood's directing as music without sound. No yelling, no ego, just accuracy. Scenes unraveled with the same self-control Freeman cultivated as an actor. On breaks between shots, the 2 discussed craft, legacy, and the silent respect for work well done. It wasn't friendship in the conventional sense. It was respect between craftsmen who preferred purpose to accolades. When they reunited years later to make $1 Million Baby, that respect grew stronger. Freeman's performance as Scrap finally brought him his long-sought Oscar, but he attributed Eastwood with something more than direction. Clint gave me space, he explained. He trusted the pause. Their collaboration was a reminder that within a noisy business, discipline is rebellion of its own. Eastwood worked in silence. Freeman acted with grace. They both crafted stories that didn't scream for notice. They warranted it. And, in the quiet space between them, the audience might have heard the ring of integrity. Jessica Tandy, the demure teacher at the wheel. When driving Miss Daisy united Freeman and Tandy, he referred to her as a master of presence. They relied on subtlety, not spectacle, to build their chemistry. Freeman testified later that acting with her was like listening to music. Each pause, each look counted. Off stage, she schooled him in the use of quiet and reverence for time, both on and off stage. Freeman was already familiar with Hoke Colburn by heart before the cameras started rolling, having played him on stage. But when Jessica Tandy came into frame, the whole tempo was altered. Her performance wasn't acting, it was precision. Each word, each pause had purpose. Freeman once called her a living metronome, constant, elegant, always in sync. On set, their relationship was based on mutual elegance. Freeman left her alone. She did the same to him. In moments that could have been maudlin, they instead discovered truth. He afterwards said that observing her work reminded him that restraint is more powerful than emotion. Between takes, they rehearsed seldom. Instead, they rode together in stunned silence, discussing memory, music, and the glacial beat of aging. To Freeman, she was more than a partner. She was a compass, a person who showed that control could be as potent as passion. Driving Miss Daisy was a phenomenon. It won her the Oscar and delivered Freeman one of his most iconic roles. But for all that, awards were not what he recalled. When questioned about his years later on, he did not talk about stardom, but about feeling. How, if she breathed differently, she could change a scene. Jessica Tandy instructed Morgan Freeman that performance, similar to music, is constructed on gaps among the notes. And occasionally, that silence shouts the loudest fact of all. Tim Robbins, the idealist who instructed him hope. On the Shawshank Redemption's Greystone sets, Freeman discovered something in Robbins's Andy Dufresne beyond acting, verity. The patience of Robbins was the same as Freeman's, and they both created a friendship that did not end with the movie. Freeman afterward stated, "Robbins reminded me what it meant to believe in light, even when you can't see it." Their friendship is an enduring cinematic metaphor for hope that won't perish. Shawshank's shooting wasn't glamorous, it was brutal. Weeks of shooting within a shuttered prison wore the cast down and kept them up at night. But through that burden, Robbins was serene, systematic, and accurate. Freeman has said he never witnessed Tim ever break character. Not once, not even during a break in shooting. That concentration astounded him. Robbins saw the tale not as an act, but as a philosophy, the notion that persistence might be redemption. Freeman's Red and Robbins's Andy became opposites bound together by faith. One surrendered, the other resisted. On screen, their friendship was forged through necessity. Off screen, it was forged through respect. Robbins and Freeman would linger late into the night talking about script changes and emotional beats, crafting the humanity of the story together. Their bond wasn't forged by ego or competition, but by mutual integrity. Tim had faith in hope as a discipline, not a desire, Freeman later explained. And that made me think differently about the character. Even after shooting wrapped, the friendship endured. Freeman frequently credits Robbins with keeping him centered through the lengthy, insecure production during which no one had any idea whether the movie would find an audience. Now, The Shawshank Redemption remains a quiet testament to perseverance, faith, and belief in something greater. For Freeman, Robbins was not merely a co-star, but a reminder that religion, in art or in life, is the greatest act of rebellion. Denzel Washington, the image of discipline. Freeman has referred to Denzel as a craftsman who never misses a note. Their careers tended to mirror each other, two pillars of gravitas in different colors. When pressed to name his favorite contemporary actor, Freeman once responded, "Denzel, because he never lies." Their respect for each other defined a soft brotherhood of intent. Two men bearing the burden of representation without ever allowing it to smother the artistry below. They were products of the same school of integrity. Both men prioritized preparation over instinct, discipline over flair. Freeman once said that Denzel went about his work with a soldier's accuracy. No extraneous movement, no incorrect note. Playing Malcolm X, an imperfect detective, or a fence's father, Denzel exuded authenticity that jumped off the screen. Freeman respected that he never worked charm as an appeal to hold an audience. He demanded it from them because it was truth. They have never shared a leading screen moment, yet their bond is strong. Freeman has frequently stated that when he sees Denzel perform, "I see the standard, not the competition." That shared sense of duty and excellence created an unspoken tie. When Freeman won his Oscar for $1 Million Baby, Denzel was among the first to congratulate him. The two men exchanged a few words, no speeches, no fanfare, only recognition. Freeman afterwards described the moment as a nod, soldier to soldier. Their respect was not performative. It was built on years of silent mastery. Both actors redefined what dignity on screen might look like for black men in Hollywood. They bore weight with dignity, demonstrating that strength does not always thunder. It lasts. To Morgan Freeman, Denzel Washington embodies what artistry looks like when purpose intersects precision. Two masters, two mirrors, each reflecting the other's light. Gene Hackman, the master of invisible power. Freeman frequently spoke about Hackman's ability to dominate a scene without force. They were described as appearing in Unforgiven together, where Hackman's intensity collided with Freeman's moral stillness. Freeman was in awe that Hackman didn't act during performances. He stayed in. For Freeman, Hackman embodied a generation of actors who didn't pursue celebrity. They pursued truth. Hackman's work on location was subdued but compelling. He commanded no larger-than-life sound or movement. He exerted influence from control. Freeman mentioned how Hackman's quietude was able to transform the mood of a space. Unforgiven put them on opposing poles of morality. Hackman as the cruel sheriff Little Bill Daggett, Freeman as Ned Logan, the exhausted conscience of the tale. The antagonism between them became the essence of the movie. Freeman once told us, "Gene taught me that power doesn't need to announce itself. It arrives and people notice." Between shots, Hackman had the same discipline he had in front of the camera. He moved deliberately, listened attentively, and spoke with accuracy. He talked often about intention as opposed to dialogue, the why behind every moment. Freeman respected that kind of attention. Hackman was not seeking emotion. He was creating structure. He didn't add the work, Freeman said. He constructed it. They shared a bond of mutual respect. Both men were part of a generation when acting was not fame, it was honesty. Hackman's dedication reminded Freeman that greatness doesn't yell. It just is. Years hence, when Hackman retired from Hollywood, Freeman labeled it a loss of gravity for cinema, observing that the absence created a vacancy only honesty could occupy. Their partnership in Unforgiven remains a masterclass in restraint. Two men with opposite energy held together by the same mission, sincerity. Freeman recognized in Hackman the integrity of an artist who becomes so lost in the work that only the reality remains. Hackman was more than a co-star to Freeman. He was evidence that stillness, in the right hands, can move the world. Sidney Poitier, the North Star of dignity. No name is spoken with more respect in Freeman's voice than Sidney Poitier's. Freeman has described him as the reason I thought it could be done. Years earlier, before Freeman's breakthrough, Poitier had blazed a trail through racism with poise and determination. Their friendship coalesced into mentorship, one that taught Freeman not only how to perform, but how to navigate an industry that too often forgot the appearance of dignity. When Poitier died, Freeman just said, "He showed us the mountain and told us to climb." For Freeman, Poitier was not only an influence, but a vision for what was possible. Seeing lilies of the field and in the heat of the night taught him that presence was power. Poitier never had to raise his voice to be respected. His calm commanded it. Sidney never asked for respect, Freeman once explained. He embodied it. His gravitas made depiction into transformation, redefining leadership on screen. When they finally met, Freeman referred to it as meeting the horizon, familiar yet infinite. Poitier spoke softly, selecting words as though he was making promises. He addressed Freeman not as a student, but as a brother in mission. They spoke a lot about the onus of being visible, the burden and the blessing of being seen. Freeman remembered Poitier saying to him, "You must walk through doors so others may follow." It was a single thought that became a creed for Freeman. In each performance with moral weight, from Nelson Mandela to Red in The Shawshank Redemption, Freeman embodied that precept. He didn't copy Poitier. He carried his grace into new generations. Sidney Poitier did not only revolutionize film, he revolutionized the standard of what it is to stand tall. To Freeman, he was not only the first. He was the cornerstone, the way, the instructor, and the steadfast benchmark of what dignity is like when lived in unapologetic fashion. Ultimately, Morgan Freeman's respect is not about celebrity. It is about faith, the faith that artistry, when exercised with patience, turns into truth. All of these 6 actors, Eastwood, Tandy, Robbins, Washington, Hackman, and Poitier, embody the values Freeman holds most precious: discipline, grace, and dignity. They teach us that greatness is not necessarily loud. It also resides in silence, in kindness, in the spaces between words. Freeman's legacy, theirs, is not one of noise or spectacle, but of staying power, of doing the work when nobody was looking, of valuing honesty over performance. They were not only actors whom he cherished, they were mentors who informed his vision of humanity itself. Fame is what binds them together, but a faith in something straightforward and human, that truth, whispered softly, endures forever.